The psychology of financial dominance. Most people think financial dominance is about having more money than everyone else. It's not, because there are people earning six figures who still live in fear, still seek approval, still panic under pressure, still make weak decisions emotionally. Real financial dominance begins much deeper than income. It begins in the mind. The wealthy think differently under stress. They negotiate differently. They perceive risk differently. They move with emotional control while everyone else reacts impulsively. And that psychological difference quietly separates people who build temporary money from people who build lasting power. So before we go deeper, type "Control creates wealth" in the comments. And if you want more videos exposing the hidden psychology behind money, power, and elite-level thinking, subscribe now, because most people are taught how to earn money, never how to think powerfully enough to keep it. Financial dominance is not built the moment someone becomes rich. It's built long before the money arrives, in silence, in pressure, in private decisions nobody sees. Because the truth is, money only amplifies the psychology that already exists inside a person. Give financial power to someone emotionally unstable, and they usually destroy themselves eventually. Give power to someone disciplined, strategic, and psychologically controlled, and they often multiply wealth for decades. That's why the real separation between ordinary people and financially dominant individuals is rarely intelligence alone. It's emotional conditioning. Most people have an emotional relationship with money. They react to it emotionally, fear emotionally, spend emotionally, invest emotionally. And emotional behavior creates predictable outcomes. Fear causes hesitation, greed causes recklessness, violation causes overspending, impatience destroys long-term strategy. That's why financially weak people often stay trapped in cycles they don't fully understand. Not because they lack effort, because their emotions quietly control their financial decisions. Look at how average people behave during economic uncertainty. Markets crash. They panic, prices rise. They react emotionally. A trend appears online. They rush into it late hoping for quick rewards. Their financial decisions are driven by emotional survival instincts instead of strategic thinking. But financially dominant people operate differently. They train themselves to remain calm when others become irrational, because they understand one critical truth. Money moves toward emotional control. The person who stays disciplined during chaos often acquires the greatest advantages afterward. That's why many wealthy investors become aggressive during periods of fear, while ordinary people retreat emotionally. Financially powerful analyze opportunities logically. And this mindset extends beyond investing. Financial dominance also requires detachment from social pressure. Most people spend money trying to communicate status. Luxury purchases, dip-door brands, lifestyle inflation, vigil consumption. Not always because they truly value those things, because humans crave recognition. And financially intelligent individuals understand how dangerous that psychological need can become. Because the moment your identity depends on external validation, your financial decisions become emotionally compromised. That's why many powerful people appear unusually disciplined with public image and spending, not because they lack access, because they understand appearance can become a trap. The average person buys liabilities to look wealthy. The financially dominant acquire assets to become powerful quietly. That distinction changes entire futures. And perhaps the most important psychological trait behind financial dominance is delayed gratification. The ability to sacrifice temporary pleasure for long-term leverage. Most people understand this concept intellectually. Very few apply it consistently. Because modern society is engineered around instant stimulation, instant entertainment, instant delivery. Patience feels unnatural in environments designed to reward impulse. But financially dominant individuals often think in years while others think in weekends. That long-term orientation creates massive advantages over time. A disciplined investor waits patiently while assets compound. A business owner sacrifices comfort while building scalable systems. An entrepreneur tolerates uncertainty while creating future leverage. Meanwhile, most people seek immediate emotional relief, follow crowds easily, overspend emotionally, seek validation constantly, make major decisions based on temporary feelings, and modern systems quietly profit from that behavior. Advertising manipulates insecurity. Social media amplifies comparison. The average person is trained to consume emotionally while believing they are acting independently. That's why financial dominance requires more than financial knowledge. It requires psychological resistance. The ability to think clearly in environments designed to trigger emotional behavior, and that level of self-control is rare. Because controlling emotions is harder than earning money. Anyone can experience temporary financial success. Very few people can sustain wealth without discipline, destroying their ego, impulses, or judgment over time. That's why many lottery winners lose everything. Athletes go broke. Entertainers collapse financially despite massive income. Money exposed psychological weaknesses that success temporarily hid. And this is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable, because financially dominant individuals often develop traits ordinary people misunderstand. They become more selective, more patient, more emotionally detached, more calculated with time, attention, and energy, not because they hate people, because they understand access affects outcomes. The people around you influence your habits, your standards, your discipline, your thinking, even your financial behavior. That's why financially successful individuals often guard their environments carefully, because energy is contagious. Spend enough time around impulsive people, and impulsive thinking starts feeling normal. Spend enough time around strategic people, and your standards begin changing automatically. This is also why financial dominance requires the ability to tolerate isolation temporarily, because building leverage often means operating differently from the crowd. While others spend to impress, you invest quietly. While others seek comfort, you build systems. While others chase appearances, you acquire ownership. And in the beginning, that path can feel lonely. People may not understand your discipline, your patience, your refusal to participate in constant consumption. But financially dominant people understand something important. Short-term social approval is expensive. Long-term leverage is priceless. That's why many elite performers are willing to look boring publicly while building power privately, because real financial dominance is often invisible in its early stages. It grows quietly, strategically, and then suddenly, years later, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. This is why emotional mastery becomes one of the highest forms of wealth. Not just money in a bank account. The ability to remain calm under pressure, to delay gratification, to avoid emotional traps, to think independently while others follow crowds blindly. Because once emotions stop controlling your financial behavior, your entire life changes. You stop chasing status emotionally, stop reacting impulsively, stop making fear-based decisions, stop needing external validation to feel valuable. And that psychological freedom is where real power begins. Not flashy wealth control, control over decisions, control over attention, control over behavior, control over direction. That's financial dominance in its purest form. Not the loudest person in the room, the calmest one, the person who can think clearly while others panic, the person who builds patiently while others seek shortcuts, the person who understands that discipline compounds just like money does. And maybe that's the final truth hidden underneath all of this. Wealth is rarely destroyed by lack of opportunity. More often, it's destroyed by lack of emotional control. So study money, but study yourself even harder. Because the person who masters financial psychology gains something far more valuable than temporary income. They gain independence from emotional manipulation itself. And once someone reaches that level, they stop behaving like a consumer trapped inside the system and start thinking like someone capable of controlling their own future.